We'll see how, I don't know how long we want to do this, but...
Let's aim for 30 minutes and we'll end up talking for an hour.
Hour might be too much. Hey everyone, welcome to Build Your SaaS. This is the behind-the-scenes story of building a web app in 2023. I'm John Buda, a software engineer.
And I'm Justin Jackson. I do product and marketing. Follow along as we build Transistor.fm. And keep up to date on all the crazy latest happenings in the world.
All the crazy sales tax and banking related.
It's just the financial system is melting before our eyes. But you went on vacation, so you were maybe oblivious to some of this. How many times did you think about the banking sector and sales tax while you were on vacation?
Not at all.
Ah, glorious.
In fact, it was the first time I haven't opened my laptop. Well, I was gone for like 9 days. Didn't open my laptop once, and that's the first time that's happened.
Wow.
I don't know. 8 years probably.
Dude,
it's pretty nice.
That's a success. Do you think you didn't open your laptop because the internet was bad, or do you think you were just fully in vacation mode?
No, I just wanted to be in vacation mode. I mean, I kept up to date on my phone and stuff and talked to you guys, and but it's, you can do that from the beach while drinking a margarita pretty easily. And yeah, the internet was not great. It was, it worked okay, but it wasn't like. It was not great. Yeah.
That's a long time to have not kind of had a real chance to unplug. Was there any other kind of, how was it? Like, what was the other parts of that? Did it feel like you really got something back? Did it feel renewing?
Yeah, it was very restful and renewing. And yeah, it's nice to unplug. I mean, like I said, I still kept in touch. So I wasn't like totally out of what was going on.
Yeah, you were still in Slack.
Which, next time I could maybe just disappear from that too. Delete it from my phone. But I don't know. I still like to keep up to date. I mean, it is, our company.
Yeah.
I like to know what's going on. But yeah, it was quite relaxing. It's very nice.
I mean, this was kind of the test run for the 6-month sabbatical we keep talking about having.
Yeah. Yeah. Where Helen and Jason run the team.
Yeah, Helen and Jason just run the company. And I think one thing that is obviously you and I bring a lot to the team and to the product and to the company, but it is incredible to see how much Jason and Helen bring.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're just scheming away in their own Slack channels, just deciding, hey, we should... Jason just did Helen and Jason kind of schemed on this together, and then Jason went and did it, where we had basically folks that have been on the platform who haven't paid in ages. Like, the card would fail, but we wouldn't kick them off. It would just be kind of in limbo.
Right. Yeah, like their feed still worked, and maybe they couldn't use the platform, but everything still worked.
So they're essentially getting free hosting.
Obviously not great, but... yeah, so Jason went ahead and figured out and wrote a whole system to notify people multiple times and then automatically cancel accounts. And yeah, it worked really well.
I mean, there's obviously dunning systems. Like, we've always had a basic kind of dunning and system, but this is like next level for giving people warnings at different stages depending on their status.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many people, obviously, if you're not paying, then... Actually, here in this co-working place, for years, we just never got an internet bill, like for cable internet. And it was just like, fine. And then all of a sudden one day our internet got turned off and we're like, oh.
Yeah, somebody found something in the system.
Yeah, it's good things to put in place. Yeah, dude, a lot's happened though. Let's talk briefly about the modern day run on a bank because it was Silicon Valley Bank. And that we were actually briefly an SVB customer.
Yeah, I don't know how long we used them. I mean, they were what Stripe Atlas used when we signed up and incorporated, and they just automatically open an account for you.
They were the only option for a long time. Now Stripe Atlas offers you a few different options, but
yeah. I mean, we used them, and it was a bank. It was fine, I guess, but it was really hard. I think it felt really hard to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty inflexible. I don't know. We used them for maybe a year. I don't know. I mean, we didn't make money for a while.
I think you actually thought we should switch right away because we signed our partnership docs, and I don't think I ever logged into Silicon Valley Bank. And then fairly soon after that, I think you were like, let's get off this Silicon Valley, and we switched to Capital One.
We did Capital One, and then Capital One, I think they like closed that type of account down or something.
Oh yeah, we had like a small business account or something.
We couldn't log into the dashboard or something.
Yeah.
And so we found Mercury pretty early on.
Yeah.
When they were pretty new, I think, still.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been, it feels like we've been with them forever now. I mean, the UX of Mercury is incredible, but I think this whole banking crisis has made us rethink about what is a bank.
Yeah, because Mercury is technically not a bank.
Tell me, what is Mercury? What is it?
Well, I saw something online, and I think it was the guy that runs it said something. He's like, we're not actually a bank. We're a software platform for your money, but we work with banks. So they have partner banks.
Okay.
And that's where your money goes, right? And I think they split it across multiple accounts or something. I mean, it looks like one account to you, but it's not technically a bank.
Yes.
But it's all very seamless. I mean, it's like, has worked great. They have free international wires and like.
The user experience is amazing, and it doesn't feel like something that's been taped together. It just like we've sent tons of wires. We've it hooks up to our accounting platform well. It feels like it just always works. It's been very dependable, and
granted, we don't have millions of venture capital funding sitting in an account, which I think I don't know if like SVB was better for that type of company, but
apparently not. They only had $250,000 of insured deposits.
Right.
I think this whole episode, and honestly, it is awful. I don't want to make light of a lot of these companies who've received funding are still small businesses who are run by people like you and I. They have employees like Transistor, and not making payroll and all of that stuff is awful. And I also want to recognize that not every company can be structured like Transistor, but it did reveal how different it is to be running a business that is just profitable.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't keep a giant cash balance with Transistor.
No, we don't.
Generally, it's just like every month our revenue is really consistent, and it's basically always gone up, even if it's only gone up by a little bit. And that model is calmer, at least at this stage of history. That could change, but it just revealed like, wow, like this whole new financial era we're in with high interest rates, and now all the think pieces on Medium and other places are like, how now Silicon Valley's got to get back to the basics, get back to profitability. Startups have to act like small businesses, and for us, it's just been like, well, that was the style that always appealed to us. And I think in most cases, especially if the business you've started has a good financial engine, and that's a huge caveat. Caveat?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's the same in Canada.
Sometimes I read that word and I'm like, caveat? No, it's not caveat. It's caveat. The caveat is that it's hard finding a bit. You and I have tried other businesses in our past, and Transistor by far has the best financial engine of anything we've tried. So obviously that really helps, and to make it feel calm. But yeah, it just did feel like, and our friends that have businesses like that, the Ian Landsmans of the world, the Michelle Hansons of the world, they're running small software companies like us. And I think all of us were kind of standing on the outside of this going, wow, like, yeah, if you had a bunch of investment and then all of a sudden you lost, I mean, it wasn't just that they lost. This would have also affected us if all of a sudden our bank account got frozen. Like that would have been not fun.
Right. Or, some of the providers we use run out of money and then they can't actually run their business. And
yeah, it did make me think about TransferWise/Wise, which is similar to Mercury. I think it's just some amorphous tech Chrome on top of something on the back end,
Right.
like it. But breaking news from Mercury, they're obviously, I think all the smaller banks or bank-like things are trying desperately to retain customers, because the unfortunate side effect of all this is that a lot of businesses, even including small businesses, but large depositors especially, are moving their funds from smaller banks to the big banks. And you're going to, there's, especially in the States, you're going to have a situation where all the big money is at Chase, and then it's going to make it even harder to regulate the big banks, because they're going to always, all of them, they will be much too large to fail.
Yeah, maybe. I think the government did the right thing though, and kind of how they reacted and kind of prevented a bunch of different bank runs. But I think Mercury actually got a lot of new customers from what I was reading.
That's true. It would be interesting to know how this actually shook out for them, because I see two trends. One, people moving their money out of smaller banks like Mercury, and two, I've heard that a lot of people were switching to Mercury. But yeah, they just announced, we've worked with our partner banks to offer additional FDIC insurance, first to 1 million, then to 3 million. Now we've gone a step further. By Monday, you will have access to up to $5 million in FDIC insurance, 20 times the per banking limit.
Yeah, I think that's something to do with how they split your money across accounts.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes. But,
and there's also, it's not clear if every depositor gets that. The other thing is that every time I've had to deal with insurance, it really sucks. So it's like, sure, you might get your money back, but if accounts get frozen or whatever, it still sucks, because then you've got even a week without access to your bank account.
But I think once the FDIC steps in, they're pretty efficient. They're pretty good at what they do. I don't think it's not like working with some crappy insurance company.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So interesting. It'll be interesting to watch that. I think we should talk about this next item that I'm highlighting. Are you okay if we talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay. We've had some folks that have said maybe we shouldn't talk about it, but I think it's better to talk about it than not. Section 174. Folks, if you have a software company in the United States, you need to be aware of Section 174. Basically, it is treating software development costs, and there's some confusion about this, but the more I've read into the U.S. tax code, the more it seems like, and now we actually have people who are trying, who have been assessed by the IRS. So we know that these assessments are actually even happening. This will dramatically increase the amount of tax that you pay, because instead of saying a development salary is an expense, you have to
categorize it as research and development.
Yes, and then you have to amortize that over
5
numerous years. Yes, thanks.
Yeah, which makes your taxable income way higher.
The example, I'll link to it in the show notes, from Ian Landsman is, let's say on $1 million revenue, normally you have dev salaries that equal $500,000, and your tax rate would be 30%, so your tax bill would be $75,000. Under this new system, your tax bill would be $225,000. It dramatically increases. Basically, this legislation makes no sense for small software companies. It is actively harmful for small software companies. And sometimes software companies and small software companies, we kind of live in this world of magical thinking, where, you and I are also predisposed to this. Sales tax, we don't need to worry about that right now. Or, we're a small company, we don't need to worry about that. This actually could have a meaningful effect on people's businesses.
Especially if you don't last for 5 years, because every year you're going to amortize more and more, right? So it piles up and you'd be paying less and less over the years. But like the first year or two is going to be like, it's a massive hit.
So Michelle Hansen, friend of the show, she's the co-founder of Geocodio. She has started the Small Software Business Alliance, ssballiance.org. I'll put the link in the show notes. She's actually expanded this now. She's got a great TLDR here too. If you have a small software business that is incorporated in the United States, you need to go there, put your name and email in there. She is going to be kind of the central communication hub for all this stuff. She's in contact with people in Washington, D.C., and she's working on some stuff behind the scenes she can't talk about yet. But we really do need to make our voices heard on this. And if you are a U.S. citizen, you also have an opportunity to contact your representative. I can sign up for this here as a co-founder of Transistor, but only John can contact his state representative and say, this is going to affect me. And Michelle even recommends calling them. They have to record every phone call. And there's actually a big chance this goes through, and a smaller chance, even if we make noise, there's no guarantee, but at least there's a possibility. So,
yeah. From reading about it, it's like nobody really wanted it anyway, and yet they voted on it, but they maybe didn't read it. It's like they don't read this stuff anyway, and they just vote it. They just voted in, and then they're like, oh, wait, no, that was a bad idea.
This is a classic case of, it's a classic case of just fucked up politics, and it sucks. It really does suck. I was thinking about this the other day because, are you familiar with Peter Level's Nomad List? It's like a site that you can put in hey, I want sunshine, but I want it to be safe, and I want it to be, you can put in all these criteria. Mm-hmm. It's almost like we need a SaaS list, which is like a way of filtering what is the best place to incorporate your company. Because there's all these, if this comes into law, that would be a substantial reason to incorporate your company somewhere else. Yeah. But on the flip side, if we incorporated it anywhere but the U.S., your Stripe fees go up substantially. So if you're incorporated in Canada using Stripe, all of your U.S. credit cards, I believe, are treated as foreign, right? They're not domestic. And so you pay an additional 1% or 1.5%. There's all of these factors that make it maybe we should incorporate here. Maybe we should incorporate here. Maybe we should. Yeah, I wonder, it'd be nice if there's a central place to, if the best place to incorporate your company is in Saskatchewan, Canada, let's do it.
You're always ragging on Saskatchewan.
That felt like a nice thing to say about Saskatchewan. I'm like, well, maybe we should look at there. How long have we gone now? Oh wow, already 20 minutes. Okay, well let's do a little sales tax compliance update because I think that's what people are here for.
The exciting part of this.
Yeah, Chris, we need a little sales tax jingle here, Sales tax compliance. That's the first line. I'll keep working on it. So I think the most relevant news here is that Revin has just shut down.
What is Revin, Justin?
So Revin was one of these merchants of record that was recommended to us by folks saying, I'm going to, I'll use my voice, but they were like, you just got a merchant of records, Revin, they'll solve your problems. Quit complaining. we had concerns back then. Now they've shut down, and I have even more concerns about all merchants of record. So here's the email that they sent to customers. No public announcement, by the way. Very weird. They just all of a sudden changed their homepage. Now apparently they do. If you go to getrevin.com, I think it goes to Revin.consulting now. So now they're a consulting company. Here's a quote from the email. The most relevant reason that we're shutting down is that the merchant of record model is too risky for both sellers and the merchant of record operator. What are they talking about here? Okay. Back to the email. Sellers bear the risk of platform shutdown as seen in the example of Flurly and Stripe. Now, I hadn't heard of this. What they're talking about here, what happened to Flurly was that some folks who were using Flurly as a merchant of record became engaged in illegal activity, at which point Stripe sent them an email saying, there's folks using your Stripe account who are in violation of regulations and will be could be subject to substantial fines. Examples of violations including selling copyrighted products, selling pharmaceuticals. And because of that, Stripe had to shut Flurly's Stripe account down, which included all of the merchants that they were being the merchants of record for.
Yikes. And that's what Revin would do too, right? We would have been part of that account, right?
Yeah. This is what would happen with any.
Yeah. I mean, that would just kill our business immediately.
So I'm going to put that link in the show notes. So back to their email, the merchant of record operator could potentially become involved in illicit or illegal activities quickly, which could lead to all sorts of problems. The problems are that the people processing your credit cards could say, no, this whole account we're just going to shut down, or this whole account we're just going to put on pause, or this whole account we're going to... Just think of all the times you've seen on Twitter where for some reason, this is always a risk, for some reason someone's PayPal account gets flagged, and they're like, They send out an emergency tweet. PayPal, please help me. My account's been shut down, or my account's been flagged, and I can't get it out of here. I need to get the money. I can't. It's a nightmare for the individual. But now, imagine assuming all of that risk. You're just going to go into a pool. It's like going into a email deliverability pool or a web hosting pool where you're all on the same IP.
Yeah, like a shared server. Yeah,
it's the same risk. And this is something I hadn't even considered before with merchants of record.
Yeah, that makes it much, much less appealing, or not appealing at all.
Especially after these bank runs. It's like, I mean, this is a risk. Of course, this is a risk with any credit card processing you do. Again, PayPal, Stripe, etc. The difference is this is like a party line. Everybody's sharing the same Stripe account. And so that exposes you to a risk in the same way that if you sign up with a merchant of record, you start paying, you have to start submitting taxes and collecting taxes for basically every tax region in the world because you've already hit all the thresholds. Why? Because it's the merchant of record is being treated as the business there. Well, now you're also exposing yourself to all of that merchant of record's customers. Anybody else they are being a merchant of record for, and you have no idea who they are. So at any point, and this could happen to Paddle. I don't know who Paddle and Lemon Squeezy and these other folks use as their credit card processing. I'm guessing that a lot of these services do just use Stripe. Stripe has their own risk assessment people. And if somebody on that account fucks up or does something illegal, it affects everybody in the merchant of record pool.
Yeah, that's wild. Or like, if Flurly or Revin was a bad actor, they'd just be like, oh, we're just taking your money, closing the account and going to Jamaica.
Mm-hmm. Back to the email, because this is just one company's perspective from Revin, but furthermore, it became increasingly clear that the merchant of record model primarily appeals to small-scale sellers or businesses with questionable and high-risk business models. This presents a significant challenge as we strive to move up the market. The recent change in Stripe's risk behavior has caused us to experience issues with keeping Stripe accounts live. End of email quotes.
Yikes.
This is a big deal. Now, I'm sure, especially some of the more mature merchants of record like Paddle, I'm sure they have ways of mitigating some of these risks, which I'd love to hear from them. But it shows, first of all, that trusting, I mean, even Revens, they describe themselves as an they built an MVP and to test out the market. That I don't want to hand my business over to an MVP.
Right.
Any company that's brand new, there's just something about it that is stressful. It feels too risky to hand your business over to something that's new and unproven.
Yeah, I mean, hand your bank account over to somebody like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we kept talking about solutions. One solution was maybe we should get your brother to help us out.
Yeah, I mean, he had listened to our episodes and I talked to him for a bit, and he was like, when I was in Texas working at the Capitol, like he actually worked on some legislation when they were working on sales tax legislation for Amazon at the time. It was a long time ago, but so he read all the legislation and probably helped write some stuff, and he knows people who still work there at certain parts of the government or like these tax accounting firms who know the ins and outs of not just Texas, but basically they have to keep up to date with like what every state's doing.
Yeah.
Whatever we decide, it might be turning on Stripe Tax and using TaxJar for some stuff, but then having someone like my brother actually manage some of that stuff behind the scenes and do the payments and registrations. And
I'm for it.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean,
I am still interested in us publishing as much of this stuff publicly. We've got it on the podcast, but I think it'd be nice to have maybe something like Michelle's Small Software Business Alliance, and maybe that's the platform, but to be able to publish more of this publicly, to share our experience and to share some of these things that just aren't being talked about. Mm-hmm. I think what's challenging about this is if you're brand new, if you're a small company, a lot of this probably feels like superfluous or, maybe you and I are overreacting or complaining too much. But once you're actually in it and actually having to figure all this stuff out, it just becomes clear so quickly that there's no way, it's not humanly possible, even for these merchants of record, to be 100% completely compliant with every tax region in the world at any given moment.
Right.
The legislation's changing all the time. The rules are changing all the time. And even, like I said, I've noticed errors on multiple platforms, multiple merchants of record platforms where they're making the calculations wrong or they're showing the wrong information on the receipt. It's very, very difficult to do this. And as has been mentioned before, tomorrow, Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan could say, well, now anybody who buys SaaS products in Moose Jaw is subject to a 35% tax.
Right.
Could send emails to all the companies in the world. Hey, hey, DigitalOcean. Hey, Amazon. Hey, Microsoft. You are now in violation of the Moose Jaw tax code, section 102, section B. And, then, and they
go
can
take a week out of your life to make it work right.
And payments to the Moose Jaw tax office must be done in person between the business hours of 10 and 3 p.m., Tuesday to Thursday.
Please fax this form to this number.
Please call this number and do the male moose mating call, and then you will be greeted with a 5-digit code. Uh-huh. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it just consumes you after a while, and you're like, I don't want to think about this, so I'm just going to ignore it. And then, it's just like
all this shit. You know what? Going through this, software is a pretty nice business to be in. Some of this stuff just feels oppressive. It just feels like I know some people are going to say that's an over-exaggeration, but like the things that you have to, until you've actually done it, until you've owned a business, some of the stuff just feels like, why are cities, states and provinces, countries, and then platforms like Stripe, why are they making it so difficult to be a small business? It feels like it actively makes business more difficult. And this is everything. It's insurance. I was talking to my friend who runs a little Main Street business here. Guess how much he pays in insurance every month?
$5,000.
No, not quite $5,000.
What's the business? I don't know. What does it do?
It's a little shop, little record shop, tiny store, like under 1,000 square feet, probably 500 square feet. Just the insurance.
Is it like fire insurance or inventory insurance or what?
It's liability and some inventory insurance, but $500 a month. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, I should look at our insurance bill, but I would be surprised if we're paying that much.
Right.
And his, like, that's more than, that's like a significant portion of his expenses is just insurance. These kinds of things, I think entrepreneurship is amazing. I think that small businesses are kind of like the lifeblood of any economy. And I don't think enough people are talking about it, maybe because they don't want to seem like complainers.
Right.
But it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. certainly doesn't make it easy. I mean, Canada, probably not either, but
city planning departments and Chicago's SaaS sales tax. It's like, I could tell you one thing that they should all do right away is increase your exemption limit. Don't make it one transaction and then you've crossed the threshold. Just increase the exemption limit and give small businesses some breathing room.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that ends our sales tax compliance section. Sales tax compliance. On a positive note, you just released some new software.
I did. Yeah, we've been kind of working on this for a while. It's an integration with Patreon, which has been interesting.
Yeah,
we'll probably have I'm sure we'll have more and more updates as people use it and time goes on. But essentially, you can connect your Patreon account to your podcast, and it'll pull in all your supporters and display them on your website and
show notes as well.
Show notes, and have a nice little section where people can join the Patreon campaign and shows you, like, if you have progress towards a goal and how that's going, and shout out new supporters in your show notes. Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's even we have these liquid tags that you can specifically highlight new supporters since the last episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then a little widget on the bottom of the website that says this podcast has 16 supporters or whatever. So yeah, that was really cool to roll that out. Lots of folks have already implemented it. It's one of those things where, like, we announced it, and even before we announced it, people were discovering it and adding it to their show. So it felt cool to be able to do something with monetization. We think that, even earning a little bit of money from your podcast can go a long way. So yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I think, there's other features we're thinking about related to this or on top of this, or other platforms that we can integrate with that do something similar to Patreon. We'll see how this one goes. But so far, people are using it.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think monetization is one of those things that we want to be thinking more about. And it is a little bit more complicated. One of the reasons we chose Patreon was because the complications of, like, using Stripe or PayPal, it's just a bit of a harder lift. And this was like, okay, a lot of our customers already use Patreon. Let's just do this as the initial thing to get us going.
Yeah.
I've been hiring Josh Anderton to help me work on a bunch of marketing site stuff, and we've been rolling that out. It's been really fun to
it's been great.
Have a big refresh. It just feels like every day we've got something new to look at. He's also worked on a new podcast website theme that is getting pretty close.
Yeah, it's been pretty close to being done.
So that's been exciting. It's a much different theme than we've had so far, which will be cool. And I released a little side project, MyPodStudios.com, that I'd like folks to go check out. I'm cool. Thinking more about my studio. My studio's embarrassing. And
your AstroTurf?
I got some AstroTurf on the ground, but it's not for the amount of time I'm on camera for Transistor, and for the amount of time I have to show up on interviews and, like I did that Descript live stream.
You need a bookshelf back there that makes you look smart.
I know.
All the things you're reading.
Exactly.
Tax compliance law.
Tax compliance law. I would love that. I should just frame some tax compliance law. And then people are like, hey, what's that in the background? Oh, that's section 32B from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan.
I read that. Just read that during lunch.
I love it. I'm a big fan. So I've been thinking about how to improve my studio. And I thought, okay, one way to get inspired is to look at studios I like.
Yeah.
And so I started this little site using indie hacker and longtime supporter of the show, Val Soapy. He's got a little product called Blog Static, and just made a little site and featured Stephen Robles, who's got a bunch of cool podcasts on Transistor, Apple Insider, HomeKit Insider, movies on the side. Anyway, if you want to see some pretty studio photos, head over to mypodstudios.com.
Cool.
All right. Well, John, now's the time to use our feature and thank our Patreon supporters.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. As always, we have rewardful.com. Those guys are great. Greg Park, Mitchell Davis from recruitkit.com.au, Marcel Fallet from wearebold.af, Ethan Gunderson, Anton Zorin from proudcamp.com, Bill Kondo, Alex Payne, Ward from memberspace.com, Russell Brown from fotivo.com, Evandro Sassi, Austin Lovelace, Michael Sitber, our friends at Fathom Analytics, my brother Dan Buda.
Sales tax compliance expert.
Yeah, soon to be. Colin Gray, Darby Frey, and Dave Junta.
Junta. We need a new podcast just called Junta. Giunta.
Yeah.
Junta. It's just Dave.
Just
talking about
chats with Dave.
Yeah. Dave, if you want to start the Junta podcast, let us know. We'll show up for that. Actually, that would be fun. It's like whoever wants to show up shows up. Dave just announces the time, shows up.
Yeah. Whoever shows up,
that's the show.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Please reach out if you've got comments or thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll see you next week.